The title is clickbaity, I know, but which video title of mine isn't? Well, this video is a prequel of my previous one. It answers an important question I asked in there while talking about money and its actual importance. Will you understand this video without watching that one first? Well, I'm not so sure. Consider watching that one first and then coming back to this one. Now, back to this topic. But first, why did religion actually spread globally? You know it, I know it. The reasons are too many to pinpoint. But to step in the shoes of an individual who lived in the times back when paganism was common, times or things weren't ideal. Let's just put it that way. So basically, one can say the reason for any religion to spread was and is because of the existence of a theory. The theory could be unification, reason for existence, explaining miracles, or freedom from toxic practices. Now, this theory, when combined with action, such as bowing down before a ceramic doll or joining hands before a solid rock, that action, when is backed by deep explanation for its necessity, leads one to believe the theory to be the truth, thereby making one a follower. Did it ring a bell? To a lot of sociologists, it definitely did. To those of you whom it didn't, are we going to talk about sociology today? Yes. Theology specifically? Yes. Combining it with capitalism? Oh, hell yes. Should it remind you of socialism then? It should. So does that mean we're going to talk about Karl Marx? Jackpot. So will we be discussing about China? Yes, we will. What about Soviet Russia? Well, I don't know anybody from there, but if you have an experience to share, feel free to. Now, before I bring in Karl Marx, let's first go back to the times when surplus crops were being distributed unequally. It might be obvious for us to think now that the royals receive the biggest share, followed by the military families and ministers, but those who received the lowest were the ones who actually produced these crops, the peasants, and there were a great many in number. So think about this. Do you really suppose that it did not occur to even one of those thousands of peasants that this system might not be fair? Here's where I'd like to bring in the Eastern Roman empires. Early Roman polytheism was influenced by the Greek gods and goddesses. They believed that mankind had a contractual relationship with God. It gave rise to deification of emperors, and rulers were believed to hold their thrones because they were chosen by God and spoke the words of God. The commoners, therefore, gradually accepted the ruler's word for truth. When the Christianization of Romans began, clergymen were being used as theological weapons to unite the people by civilizing the pagans using Christianity to rule over them. A great example of this is Bulgaria. Tsar Mikhail Boris I, the king of Bulgaria, was not pleased with the religious differences among his people. That was bringing political and social unrest, and not to forget, the isolation from the rest of the Christianized Europe. He let the clergymen of Constantinople come baptize his people by force and compulsory religious conversion only to have better power and control. Religion was time and again used to suppress any revolutionary movement that emerged in this country, by showcasing its leaders as the theological supremacists. Here's a fun fact. Did you know the Cyrillic text used among the Slavic nations today was first formalized in Bulgaria, which is what led to the widespread usage? This hasn't been the case with Christianity alone. For Islam, take the example of most Arab nations today. The governing positions are held by kings, and the advising ministers are always a prince, all born into royalty, and despite pressures to diversify the cabinet ministry, we see little to no change. Worse was when there was Caliphate reigns, especially among the Ottomans, also known as the Ottomans. Descendants of Prophet Muhammad were given higher privileges, and because the religion embraces slavery, there were systematic establishments of slaves during the time. Another example could be Hinduism. The caste system of its followers is not unknown to the knowledgeable ears. This caste system is subdivided into 5 categories. The Brahmins, who are the priests and occupy the highest ranking, and are believed to be the purest and so closest to God, followed by the Kshatriyas, who are the warriors. Then come Vaishyas, known to be merchants or landowners. Then the Shudras, who are the second lowest caste, known to be servants to the upper castes, therefore not given the respect a person deserves. But the worst of the treatment is faced by Dalits, the lowest caste, that swept the streets and cleaned toilets. People of these castes are to this day deprived of basic necessities and are treated as untouchables. Now, looking at these examples, let's talk about Karl Marx and his theory. He said religion is the opium of masses. It has been used to dictate and control over people by the elite. He says religion strongly shapes the behavior of the people. And so, to justify such class inequality or capitalism, religion was commonly used as a strategy. Because such an ideology makes one believe that their suffering or poverty, but the elite's rich in prosperity, has been put there by God based on the person's past or present sins. And so, one would accept it as one's fate and would not rebel against it, for it is ordained by God. For this reason, religion has been acting as a stabilizer like the opium, where a person enters into a state of delusional thoughts, and the exploitation that they suffer each day becomes dull and foggy for that minute. Bourgeoisie, the ruling class, or the businessman, or the exploiter, has been using this time and again on the proletariat, the working class. That reminds me, do you know how the working class or labor come to be? I'll tell you how, but for that you will have to subscribe to my channel so that you know when I upload the video. We all know that Karl Marx also proposed socialism and gradual movement towards communism. If you don't, then hit the subscribe button. I'll tell you all about it. But you must at least know that China is a fully communist country. And so I went to talk to my good friend from China about it to learn more. Here's what I found out. Do Chinese children and adults study about Karl Marx? Yes. In fact, it is a compulsory subject for students in middle school and high school. As a comparison, I never learned about Karl Marx until I entered my bachelor's degree program. So I proceeded to ask the important question. Do people in China practice religion? The answer was yes and no. You see, the major religions that you'll find in this country are Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. All three are less deity-based and talk more about the way of living life. Although Confucianism is a compulsory subject for all Chinese students, it is not seen as a religion by people. Therefore, the people of this country do not technically follow any religion, but are known to be spiritual culturally. This is also the reason why you will subtly, every now and then, hear about the oppression of the Uyghurs in China. Most people in China are unaware of such movements, like my friend wasn't. But click the link down in the description box below if you want to know more. Although it doesn't matter, but here's what's my opinion on this. You must have played a game where a number of people stand behind each other, and the first person recites a sentence in his neighbor's ears, which is supposed to be repeated word for word to the next person. You notice that by the time the last person repeats the sentence, it has not only been altered in words, but also in meaning. Human beings are that way, you know. Jesus Christ had openly denounced the priests and had spoken against the ways of the Roman rulers, which was the reason why he was crucified. Similarly, Hinduism was born out of the teachings of Sanatana Dharma, which never once asked for caste systems in its Varna. In fact, Sanatana Dharma is very much similar to Buddhism and Taoism in its teachings, with very few difference in interpretations. The clergyman system that was built out of the religious teachings, that was the wrongdoing or misinterpretations of the people, for reasons that seemed to be righteous to them. Because let's face it, clergymen, the priests, the nuns, or holy institutions are an investment to the government with zero returns. So why pay to establish them and pay to maintain them? To meet an agenda? Or is it not always about money like I mentioned in my previous video? Did you give that a watch already?